This is 22 News in Focus.
Good afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Ciara Speller. West Springfield received a $200,000 grant from the Massachusetts Gaming Commission to hire a transportation engineering firm to redesign Park Avenue and Park Street between the North End Rotary and Elm Street. It's part of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's Complete Streets initiative to make the streets safe and accessible to everyone. Joining me to discuss the project is James Zach, West Springfield Town Manager, and Carolyn Radish, Assistant Vice President and Senior Transportation Manager for GPI. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So what are some of the problems along Park Avenue and Park Street?
Well, obviously we've got a good amount of traffic. We're in close proximity to the city of Springfield and I-91. And we're looking at the roadway to make it a complete streets project, obviously, and that's to accommodate not just vehicular traffic, people driving in cars, but also pedestrians, bicyclists, and public transit. So we're trying to make it a safer environment for people of all ages and abilities.
Right, and just to go back, in case people aren't familiar with that area, the Park Avenue, Park Street corridor encompasses the town green and is the direct link to the North End Bridge into Springfield.
That's correct. That's correct.
And what type of data was collected?
So we did traffic counts out there to understand the volumes of traffic going through the area during the peak period and also all day. And we got, and that helps us understand how the intersections are operating as well. And we also looked at the crash records for that area to understand, what the crash patterns are. And we, got some survey-based information that we took as well. So that's the hard data. We also are conducting public workshops and getting input from the community about the area and how they use it, and that's a very important part of a project like this.
And could you tell us a little bit more about the process of collecting that data?
The traffic counts, we put out recorders and they record the traffic. In terms of the crash information, we actually got 5 years worth of data from the town. And we look at the patterns and the time and the different locations and the factors involved in the crashes. And in terms of the base information, we flew a drone aerial over there and we're getting survey information so we understand where the utilities are, where the trees are, where the curb line, the right-of-way, all that is in place. And we've held 2 public workshops, one in April and one in June, to get public input on the process.
And so why was this grant so important?
Well, anytime we can make improvements to the community, we're going to go after it. So this is a primary travel route to the city of Springfield, and the grant that came in was via the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. So this is our State Route 20, Park Ave, Park Street, and it is a primary travel route to and from the casino. So the Gaming Commission puts out grant opportunities to communities within a certain radius of the casino resorts. And it's important for us to be prepared for any kind of traffic impacts generated by additional traffic from the casino. And we want to make sure we can provide people with transportation options other than the vehicle to get to and from the casino via bicycle or pedestrian and transit.
Right, so making the streets safe and accessible for everyone. Of course, I'm sure you're hearing feedback from residents as well. What's some of the things that they're saying about this project?
Well, being able to cross the street safely. If you've been out there, Park Ave and Park Street, each one has there's 6 lanes total you need to cross. So to go from one side to the other, you cross 3 lanes, go through the common, and then another 3 lanes. In close proximity is the CSX intermodal facility, so there's a lot of truck traffic. So we want to make sure people can cross the street safely from one side to the other, and it's a gateway to our downtown central business district. So we want to improve that. We want to make sure people can ride their bicycles down the street. Right now, it's very challenging to do that, and we want to make sure that the pedestrians have access to the transit system. The transit stops along the corridor. We want to make it safe and accommodable for people to get to those stops so they're used more. And obviously, we want to improve traffic flow through our downtown, so that's going to be a primary focus of the project as well.
And when did West Springfield apply to Mass DOT, and when was your plan approved?
Okay, so just not to confuse things, the project we're speaking about now, the Park Ave and Park Street project, is a component of the overall community's Complete Streets plan. So the town of West Springfield entered into a community compact with the governor's office back in 2015. And we made an initiative to become a Complete Streets community through the Department of Transportation. And in 2016, the town adopted a Complete Streets ordinance. And to give people a perspective of what that is Complete Streets is a way of us looking at transportation projects to provide as many modes of travel as possible that are safe and accessible for people of all ages and abilities, young children to the elderly and everybody in between. So in 2016, we introduced that ordinance into the community that requires us to look at all modes of transportation and ages and people of all ages and abilities. So once we introduced that ordinance, we did a plan in 2017 townwide. And that was a comprehensive plan where we have over 50 projects identified in it to accomplish over the next 10, 20 years. So we became the actual Complete Streets community with the Department of Transportation in 2017. And this project here is a product of that plan. And so if you're familiar with the area, there's some construction going on right now. That's some initial funding that we got through the DOT, Department of Transportation, to do some crosswalk improvements. So we got that funding about 2 years ago. It's being constructed now, and this project here is going to build off of that. So the improvements you see under construction now are just the beginning, and the larger scale project is going to come later.
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I'm sure viewers at home
Okay.
wanted that information as well. And
Sure.
lastly, what is something that was very troubling to you that you're happy you're able to fix?
Being able to provide people the opportunity to get to our downtown without having to own a vehicle. We have a large area, our Merrick Memorial area, where people rely on walking and bicycling and mass transit to get to and from places of work and shopping. I'm fortunate, I have a car. It's easy for me to jump in my car and drive where I need to. Some people don't have that opportunity. So we want to bridge that gap and provide people with opportunities to walk, bicycle, and use transit to do their daily business.
All right. Okay, and we'll continue our conversation after a short break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about the West Springfield Park Avenue and Park Street redesign project. Thank you, James and Carolyn, for being here with us again. Let's get down to the details. What does the plan entail, and discuss the design options?
Okay.
So right now, we are in the design process. So we have a couple of alternatives that we're looking at for Park Street and Park Avenue. As Jim said, it's a complete streets project, and so the focus of our design attention is on bicycles, pedestrians, transit riders, as well as traffic flow. What's lacking, probably the largest area that needs help, is the bicycling opportunities. Along the street, there's no bike shoulders. Bicycles will either have to drive in traffic in the travel lane, which is, it's a busy street with a lot of trucks. It's not very comfortable for bikes, or on the sidewalk. And that doesn't work out well because the sidewalks are narrow. So we're looking at different options for accommodating bikes, either as a shared use path on either side, or as a sidewalk next to what's called a protected bike lane. So that would be up at the sidewalk level, next to the sidewalk, so out of the street completely. And that's an important consideration because both of those options bring the bicyclists out of the street, and so that gets into the objective of accommodating all ages and abilities. So that means kids, there's an elementary school close by, older folks, there's a senior center there. So the kind of question that you ask about, is it appropriate for all ages and ability, is, would you let your 8-year-old ride there? And so that's what we're trying to achieve there on Park Street and Park Avenue. So we have a couple of design options there. In terms of pedestrians, we want to make safer crossings with pedestrian activated RRFBs, and perhaps some ways of calming traffic. Again, there's a school close by, so there's a possibility that this could be a school zone. that would bring the speeds down a little bit, at least during school hours. And so that would make it feel better and be safer for the students that are nearby walking to the school. And then in traffic flow, we'll be looking at some signal timing issues and making, doing what we can there. So those are the primary changes. We also got a lot of input from the community about the use of the central green. So there's very generous, nice green in the center of town. It feels kind of gracious when you drive into West Springfield, but people don't use it that much, and that was the input we got. So we're also looking at some ideas to put like a circuit where people could walk around the perimeter of the green, and so they could, do kind of an exercise loop, or they could walk on the green side instead of on the other side of the street to make it nice. The loop itself would be close to a mile, and so for the seniors in the senior center, or people in the school, or people in the neighborhood, that's kind of like a nice way to get an exercise loop. It's close to a mile, the entire loop, and there's been a lot about how walking is good for your health, and that's kind of an easy thing for everybody to do. So that's an idea. So those are the ideas that are out there still, and we look forward to input from the community on that.
Jim, what about in terms of a timeline?
Sure. Well, we don't have construction funds yet for the project because we don't know how much it's going to cost, but if everything went perfectly, and feel free to chime in, if everything went perfectly, we could potentially start construction maybe the fall of 2020 or early in 2021, in spring of 21. And that would be if everything fell into place correctly and we were able to secure construction funds.
And how about the impact this will have on, local businesses?
So during the construction phase, obviously, with any construction project, there's going to be some traffic delays and some disruption. However, we will be keeping the roadways open at all times, so there will be access on the roadways, across the roadways, and we will also be maintaining access to all the businesses and residents along the corridor as well during construction. So, we're hoping the inconvenience is there just for a short period, and then following that, when the final product is in, we're hoping people are going to slow down, patronize some of these local businesses, and we're hoping to get a little bit more of that as well.
Now, will this take into consideration the town's plan for the church and building a new school?
Yes, absolutely. This is in a preliminary design, and the school has a schematic design, conceptual design at this point. So as the designs develop, we are coordinating to make sure they marry up together. So absolutely.
Certainly we want to encourage more walking to school. And so this will help that. It sort of reinforces the school being there.
Sure. Yeah, there's actually a school crossing across Park Ave and Park Street, so this project will help enhance that for the existing school and the new school.
Yeah. Right. And is there anything else that this project will help enhance that maybe some residents aren't aware of?
I think the bicycle accommodations will be a big change. It's something new. As you said, you can't ride down the roadway. You rarely see people riding their bikes along those roadways. So I think that's going to be something we're hoping that once people see that and they know it's safe, there's a large percentage of people that want to try it but are afraid to try it. So we're hoping to provide accommodations and make it easy for people to want at least have the ability to try and bicycle or try to walk across the street safely.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much. And how will this project be funded? You might be wondering. Well, we'll learn more after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus, and today we've been discussing the West Springfield Park Avenue and Park Street redesign project. We mentioned earlier that the West Springfield is receiving a grant from the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Why is the Gaming Commission providing these funds?
Well, on an annual basis, the Massachusetts Gaming Commission is providing grant opportunities to communities in the area of these new casinos to help mitigate potential traffic impacts due to additional traffic generated by the sites. So we've been fortunate enough, we applied for a grant last year and we received $200,000 from the Gaming Commission in order to initiate the design of the project. So essentially to help mitigate any kind of traffic impacts related to the project.
And how much is the state providing?
The Gaming Commission is providing us $200,000, and then the town is contributing $25,000 for the overall design that GPI is working on right now.
Okay. And how important is this for the community, this overall project?
It's very important. It's part of a network of bicycle and pedestrian and vehicular transportation modes. One of the things is the Gaming Commission gave us funds because we're doing the Complete Streets component. The MGM Casino Resort is 2 miles from the project site. Once you go over the North End Bridge is the Springfield Connecticut Riverwalk and Bikeway, which goes along the Connecticut River to Riverfront Park, which is a block or two away from the casino. So we're trying to provide opportunities for people to do transportation other than in their car. So it's a short trip. Maybe you'll utilize your bicycle, or you could walk to that site or into the city of Springfield. We're also trying to tie in some other projects. We have our Elm Street corridor under design as well, right at one of the terminuses of this project. And we're hoping to connect to a couple other projects. GPI has a project under design, our Memorial Avenue Route 147 corridor, which will have enhanced bicycle and pedestrian facilities. And the town just opened up a riverwalk along the Connecticut River, paralleling part of Route 5 in West Springfield. So we're trying to tie these pieces together, this one specifically with the city of Springfield and hopefully with other communities.
And there was something that you wanted to add as well.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, it's important to the town of West Springfield, but to sort of the larger area as a whole, to make those connections and to start building a network that's safe and attractive for bicycling and pedestrians, and making the connection to really popular paths like the River Walk is a good way to go. So this is one step towards that. There's another step that needs to be made going over the bridge and by Mass DOT. When they do work on their roadways, they do design them to be complete streets. So at some point, when work needs to be done on that link, it'll be done, and that will help. So it's not something that will happen overnight, but this is a big step in that direction.
And for viewers who are just joining us right now, could you just talk again about the project, some of the enhancements that you'll be seeing in West Springfield?
On this project specific, you'll see better traffic flow and improvement to the signal systems, especially at Elm and Union. You'll also see better accommodations for people to be able to walk across those roadways safely, as well as you'll be able to ride your bike down those roadways, which will be something new that we haven't seen.
Yeah, and how about for children and things like that? Of course, safety is a huge concern for parents and caregivers, so how will that be addressed?
That will be addressed with a lot of the accommodations. As Carolyn mentioned, the bicycling, we're looking at doing potentially buffered bicycle facility, which is next to the sidewalk, a little bit off the street, which makes people feel a little bit safer. The crossings across those 3 lanes, there'll be high visibility. There'll be people will know you're in the roadway and you're crossing. So those are the type of things that will get people out and be able to cross the street. And once they see people doing it, hopefully other people are going to want to try. So.
And will there be more things, flashing lights, signage, things like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're actually, as that project we're doing now, we're installing a couple, they're called rapid flash beacons, and they have a couple by our post office just around the corner. We're going to be installing those on both sides of the roadway as well as above the roadway, like on a traffic signal mast arm. So that's kind of the first phase, and then GPI is going to come in and do some enhancements to make it better along the entire corridor and similar type.
And so what are some of the things that you're most excited to see with this project?
Oh, I'm excited to see this area of town getting the facelift it needs. It's been a long time since we invested a lot of money in the community. It's right in our downtown. It's the gateway into the community. So we're looking forward to improving those roadways, the sidewalks, and making it a better transportation system, not just for people here, but coming through the community as well. So when you come into West Springfield, it's a nice experience, and we want to keep it that way.
I think that just to re-emphasize what Jim said, it's a lot of communities are finding that making these connections for bicycling and making a place pedestrian friendly really reinforces the local economies, that walkers and bicyclists are, like to go to those kind of places and come and linger and spend money. It's right in their downtown. So.
That's like an excellent point, because I know this area, a lot of people drive and pass right through, and we have a lot of local small businesses in that area. So if people slow down, take advantage of seeing them pulling over, stopping, or if they're walking or bicycling. I notice a lot of businesses myself when I'm walking in the downtown that I wouldn't normally not know, but just by passing through. So we're hoping to stimulate some of the local economy with some of these improvements too.
So that's another very exciting thing that'll happen, I think.
Absolutely.
So.
Right, and so we talked about, of course, there being traffic when there is construction, things like that. What would you say to the community about that?
Be patient. With any kind of improvement, the outcome at the end, you'll be happy when you see the final product, and it'll be quite a long time before probably anything of that magnitude happens again. So, patience. Patience, that's all I could say.
All right, thank you guys for being here with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You've been watching 22 News in Focus, and today we've been talking about the West Springfield Park Avenue and Park Street redesign project. The project is an effort to increase accessibility and safety for pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists along that busy roadway. That does it for our program today, and we want to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Carolyn, for being here. And thanks to all of you at home for watching. If you missed any of it, you can watch it in full on our website at WWLP.com. From all of us here at 22 News, we wish you a wonderful Sunday.